Rev up your engines! Today I'm going to tell you the problems with remanufactured engines and why you might think twice before you pay a bunch of money to have one installed in your vehicle. This baby, the original owner, got a beautiful 6-liter. As you can tell, he took care of it, but he also took care of the engine. He would change the oil every 5,000 miles religiously. Full synthetic oil, full synthetic filter. The original engine went over 300,000 miles. And it was still running decent. You know, I mean, it burned a little bit of oil, but this is his baby. He wanted it to go like new. So he made the mistake of having a Jasper, what they call remanufactured engine put in. Same engine, 6-liter, and here's that engine now. It was clacking like mad. The lifter here's broken, and the cam's broken too. Who knows if the lifter broke the cam broke the lifter, but this was a Jasper long block, the whole shoot match. It had heads, block, everything was supposedly remanufactured. Now, Jaspers.com, and here's what they said. I shall read it. Jasper engines and transmissions are remanufactured to industry specifications that are equal or more exact than those used by the original equipment manufacturers. In this case, it's a flat-out lie. He got over 300,000 miles. The same guy had this Jasper remanufactured 6-liter engine put in. He got over 300,000 miles of his original one. He's the only one that's owned it. He got 30,000 miles out of this remanufactured. So it lasted less than 1/10 as long as the original engine, and it broke. Now they're saying equal or above. Oh, equal or below, they should have said. This engine was 10 times worse than the original engine. There's the broken exhaust lifter, and even worse. And as you look inside here, you can see it's pretty rough. The actual block, even though it's remanufactured, for those of you who don't know, this is the head. This head's taken off. The whole big piece is called the block. God knows where that block came from, how many miles it had. If it was from a blown engine, they called it a remanufactured. Well, the remanufacturing process stinks. Got less than 1/10 as many miles. This blew at 30,000 miles. Now, years ago, I used to tell people, hey, Jasper does a pretty good job. Well, in this case, they did a lousy job. So I can't tell anybody to go to them. Not with this kind of workmanship. It lasts 1/10 as long as the original engine did with the same guy. Bunch of horse manure. I've seen the same thing with people buying supposedly remanufactured engines through discount auto stores, and people had nothing but problems with those engines too. Who knows who they have actually rebuilding the things? In this case, obviously, they either used a crappy block, they used crappy lifters, or a crappy cam, or maybe a used cam. I don't know what they used. This is why I warn people. You know what you want to do with your vehicles? You want to maintain them so the engines don't go out. Now that's what this guy did with his original engine. Changed the oil filter every 5,000 miles. Used full synthetic oil, full synthetic filter. And he got like 320,000 miles. And it wasn't like the engine blew up. It just wasn't running perfect, and he loved this thing. He wanted it to run perfect. That's why you want to make your car last as long as possible by maintaining it correctly. You need clean oil going through all of these passages. And you also need clean coolant. In the coolant jackets, that cool the engine so it doesn't overheat. Change it every once in a while. It has anti-rust, anti-corrosion inhibitors built in, but they wear out over time. This is GM. I would change the coolant every 5 years or every 100,000 miles, irregardless. Now GM says 5 years or 150,000 miles. I would not push it 150,000 miles. Now years ago, Dex Cool had all kinds of problems, clogged up engines and stuff, but that was a long time ago. The Dex Cool they've been using for the last couple of decades works perfectly fine. It doesn't have any particular problems. And truthfully, if you start out with Dex Cool, you want to stay with it. Now, the coolant isn't as well made as, say, the Toyota pink coolant, which I've seen it go 10 years, 150,000, and still hadn't ruined anything. But I tell people, hey, if you got 10 years and 150,000 miles out of your coolant, please flush it out, put new coolant, watch my videos, how to flush your car's cooling system on YouTube. You can easily do it yourself, right? It's not that hard to do. You don't have to do it that often. But in the case of GM, I would not push it over 5 years, and I wouldn't push it over 100,000 miles. You know, let's say you put 100,000 miles in 4 years, I'd change it then. Or let's say you only put 80,000 miles on in 5 years. I'd still change it because it's 5 years old. So you don't want your engine to be ruined because it's not maintained correctly, because as you've seen in this video, the OEM one maintained went over 300,000 miles. It was like 320,000 miles. It was still running. Yeah, I'll burn a little bit of oil, but it was still running pretty good. He wanted it to run perfect. So he made the mistake of having his Jasper long block put in the vehicle, and 30,000 miles later, boom, it started clanging like mad because the interior was breaking down. You can even see that one completely snapped. Now, what else can you do to make your engine last virtually forever? Don't over rev the engine. If you got a standard manual transmission, don't rev it as high as it goes and do burnouts and ruin it and stuff like that. Thankfully, most people have automatic transmissions these days. 96% of Americans drive automatic transmissions. So they just put it in drive, and they generally don't over rev it. But there's other things that you have to worry about. Let's say you're stuck in the snow or the ice or the mud, right? You step on the gas and the wheels are spinning, revving. Don't do that. First, it'll wipe the transmission out, because the transmission, when you're spinning it real fast and spinning it loose, it's going to strain that a lot too. But it's also going to rev your engine way too high, and you can blow your engine because you're stuck in the mud or the gravel or whatever. That's what these hooks are for, baby. You got somebody to pull you out. Most of the wear of your car occurs upon startup, right? So the last thing you want to do is start your vehicle and then rev it up. Of course, when it comes to oil's viscosity, use the correct oil. Look at that. Hey, use what it says. Okay, it's shining off the lights there. It says 5W30. Use 5W30. Don't use something else. Engineers designed these things for a certain oil. That's what they work best on, okay? He used 530 in this thing for 320,000 miles. It served them good. Don't think, oh, I'm going to put a lighter oil on. A lot of guys, that's getting old, I'll put a heavier oil in. You put a heavier oil in it, in the winter it's going to flow slower. When you start it up cold, it's going to wear the engine more. No, use what it was designed for. The engineers have a pretty good idea what they're doing when they build these things in the first place. You can't believe the crap that companies tell you these days. Okay, they say they're equal or better than what GM had built. Yet the original GM engine went over 320,000, theirs blew up at 30,000. The parts, obviously, are not up to spec either, because, hey, they're saying, well, our specifications, and that block, I don't know how old it is. When you get a remanufactured engine, you have no idea what you're getting. Did the block have 1 million miles on it? You have no idea. And obviously, at Jasper, the quality control isn't what it used to be. I used to see them putting out really good engines, but something like this happens, that it would blow up that fast. And you can't blame it on anybody but the people who remanufacture, because they sold them a long block. That stuff was all put together. At Jasper, all they had to do was bolt the other parts on, the cams, the lifters, everything. It was just built poorly. And this happens over and over again with these, in quote, remanufactured engines. Now, if your engine does go out, you're often better finding a used engine, especially if you can find a vehicle in a junkyard or a guy's house, whatever. It's an wrecked vehicle, but you can start it up, run it, and listen to it, do a compression test, see what shape it's in. A lot of times a used one is plenty good. Let's say you found one that had 100,000 miles. This Hummer's original 6-liter went 320,000 miles. That engine could still be in good shape. Put that in. You're not dealing with some clowns putting it together saying they remanufactured it from pieces of how many other engines. Where'd the block come? Where'd the heads come from? Where did the camshaft come from? You know, where did the valves come? Where did everything come from? You know, you have no idea. You want to follow my advice in this video and make it last as long as possible and not get in this whole rat's nest in the first place. Because once you need an engine, man, I'm telling you, for hardly anything can you get an actual new engine. They're either rebuilt, used, or in a rare occasion, you can get new crate motors, but they're generally not made by the company itself. Like, let's say you're getting a Ford engine. They might have brand new Ford parts, but they're usually built somewhere else in a factory, not a Ford factory. factory. So they're not the same engines you get when you buy a brand new Ford. That's a mistake. People always think, I got a crate engine. It doesn't mean that those guys put it together correctly. And in the case of this one, I used to recommend years ago, people, Jasper makes pretty good engines. But when I see this, and it breaks like that after only 30,000 miles and the original engine went 300, I really wonder, where did the block come from? Where did the heads come from? Are they just old used ones that they machined down, or just put old used ones in and didn't even machine them down? I have no idea. I just know it blew at 30,000 miles, and that's uncalled for. Waste a whole bunch of your hard-earned money putting in an engine that doesn't last long, maintain it correctly in the first place, then you won't be sorry when your $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 engine job breaks after a short period of time because they didn't build the engine right. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.